Hello, everybody. What is going on? Our last bonus clip here on YouTube, as I thought that was the case for the World's End preview, and then we realized, oh wait a minute, we have to react to the whole thing, and share our thoughts. So now this is officially the last video of 2024. Jose Tabuada.
I mean, maybe we've already lied once. We could do 7
Yeah,
more.
no, I think this is absolutely it. At least in terms of the year. Jose Tabuada at Tabuada93, Colin Dodge at Risen72, and our special guest, my close friend of mine from the United Kingdom, Mr. Peter Atkinson, who joined Colin this past Saturday at our World's End live reaction of the watch along. And of course, Peter was also with me when I used to do my podcast at Under the Middle Rope. I don't know why I said at Under the Middle Rope. That was when I had that years ago. And Pete and a bunch of us were having fun just talking wrestling, and then I eventually found Ringside Heat and I dropped that. But Pete, it's good to do this with you again. In another podcast episode ish. It's been a long time.
A long time. And we talked a lot of rubbish on that old podcast.
We absolutely did. But we had fun with it nonetheless. But Pete, thank you once again for stepping in this past Saturday. And again, thank you again for joining us. Obviously, Pete's a massive AEW fan who said yes to tuning in with Colin. And you guys killed it this past Saturday. So congrats to you both on a fantastic stream. I had a blast being the director in the chair as Colin was referencing me this past Saturday. So it was tons of fun. So we're gonna get to the card, but before we do, follow us at ringside_eat wherever you get your social, whatever socials you have, and of course available wherever you get your podcasts done. So here we are, folks. A fun pay-per-view. Normally, we had 8 matches going into the pay-per-view, and like in typical AEW fashion, we were awaiting another 25, but no, they kept it at 8, which I was surprised. It still went the near 4-hour mark. I think it ended 11:30, 11:45 my time.
Yeah.
Around there, near Pete. For Pete, it was nearly 5 a.m. So God bless him for staying with it, staying very awake, as it didn't show any signs of tiredness at all. So good on you, pal, because I would have been dead. I would have absolutely been dead if I was to do that at 5 a.m. So, like we always do with these reviews, we run through the card match by match. We share our thoughts, and then we see where we go from there. Again, as we are ready to wrap up the final pay-per-view of 2024. We're going to start off with the Continental Classic semifinals. We're going to group those two together because, frankly, that's what started off the night, and that is what I think deserves to be grouped together because it's all under the same branch. Ospreay taking care of Kyle Fletcher. Okada taking care of Ricochet, which set up the dream final that we've seen in New Japan before, but this time in North America. Whoever wants to start, go ahead. But your thoughts on the winners of the semifinals and, I guess, the matches themselves?
Pete, by all means, because he actually ended up calling most of the night. So yes,
he did.
I did go 8 for 8 in our predictions as well.
Yeah, damn it. Yeah, I think he got copied on the script and kept it from me. I think is what happened. Yes.
Pete,
also sealed up winning our overall predictions for the entire year as well in the process.
He did. Yeah. Pete, go ahead.
Some might disagree, but in my opinion, this was 100% the right choice of winners.
Mm-hmm.
In Will Ospreay and Okada. And when we get to that later match to discuss that, it'll become very evident why that was the right choice of winners here. But one of the comments I noted, and it actually came from Meltzer, was he thought this was the best pay-per-view opening match ever.
Oh,
I disagree with that. But I think it might be the best AEW pay-per-view opening match.
Oh, he thought all time, like any pay-per-view across,
all time.
Oh no, you can't. No,
and
that's
it's not. This is not Bret Hart versus Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10. It's not.
Exactly.
No,
but it might be AEW's best opening pay-per-view match so far, and it kind of just goes to show how great Will Ospreay is that he can arguably put on 2 matches of the night in the same night. Arguably 2 5-star matches in the same night. He's on another level, and this opening match, I was surprised how quickly he was bleeding in this match, and it obviously played into the story a lot later on, but they built that very well. I think the way he won with the Styles Clash was a little bit of a cocky shout to the internet trolls who were telling him that stop using the Styles Clash as a transitional move. Because it should be pinning people, and now he pinned someone with it.
So he pinned Fletcher with it,
Yep. I think that was by far the better of the two semifinals. Okada Ricochet. I think the match itself is going to get remembered for one spot and one spot only, which was Okada running back and forth between the ropes for about 20 seconds and then just slapping Ricochet in the head. Which is a fantastic spot. No doubt about that. But then I think it's going to get remembered more for the post-match with Swerve coming out. And really probably cementing this Ricochet heel turn.
Yeah.
And Ricochet probably going to move from that trolley heel now to a, oh no, I'm a pissed off heel. I'm coming to get Swerve now. So I think overall, righteous winners, great post-match angle, and really good start to this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I can't. I definitely don't want to say. It's hard to say because there's been so many years of pay-per-views. I can't say it's the best opening pay-per-view match of all time when
it's not.
When Tito Santana versus the Executioner at WrestleMania 1 exists. I can't say it. I can't say that. Yeah, I know. That's like good. That's my trivia like question. Like, oh, what was the first ever match at WrestleMania ever? And that's the only thing that comes to mind. One of the other spots that I loved in the Ospreay Fletcher match, just before we get to Colin, was Fletcher, and you sent this in our group chat, Pete. Was Fletcher on the barricade? He ripped up a sign that said Ospreay's better. And everybody's going crazy and he walks away. But that fan cleverly had a second sign that said Ospreay still better.
Nice.
I cannot the fan, for the fan to think of that.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
It was almost too perfect that I thought initially it was a plant.
Right.
By the company.
Yeah.
And then the actual fan has posted on Twitter since and gone, yeah, here were my signs that I took. It was me.
Yeah, so, I don't think that I can see why people.
It was almost too perfect that you went. This is amazing. Did they plant that? Because it's too perfect.
Colin, where are you at with the opening two matches?
I honestly, I'm not upset at all that Ospreay won against Fletcher. The only real reason Fletcher was my pick because of his incredible heel turn and what he's done in the tournament, the kind of cheat to win kind of stuff. Because again, they weren't allowed to have any kind of interference, so he was doing all the classic heel stuff, holding the ropes, foot on the rope, grab the trunks, all that kind of stuff, just to make sure he got the win. So, and also that Ospreay can survive the loss more than somebody who just turned heel and is getting a big push. So that was really my only reason. But I am not at all upset of the story that was told, where Fletcher needs to hurt Ospreay as much as possible to set up, obviously, Ospreay versus Okada. I didn't for a second think that Ricochet was going to win against Okada at all, because he doesn't need this tournament anyway, especially with his brand new heel turn that was happening. So him winning this tournament wouldn't really mean anything, and so it's better for everybody else. Either Fletcher, Ospreay, or Okada winning again was better than Ricochet winning. So I never had him picked. And then, of course, obviously, it was just there to set up him and Swerve. And I know, Pete, you and I were talking about, it's a shame Swerve's not even on the card, but I'm so glad he had that spot. That's a very memorable spot. He's setting up a rivalry for the new year. And, so he got to be impactful and, kind of take a night off. He didn't have to wrestle, so that's good. I like wrestlers that I like getting a bit of a rest during their time. So I was completely happy with those two matches.
I did see the complaints of people saying, well, Fletcher and Ricochet need their pushes. We need to push new stars. And I think you could even argue that maybe this even is a quote unquote problem. I don't see it as a problem when I say that, and it's like, when you have your stars there and you have the star power, you have to lean into it. You have to. And obviously,
a program with Swerve is a push. That's good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and for people to say Ricochet should have won, then you had what happened after with Swerve. That's a great program for Ricochet to go into, and the right program, especially if he's going to go into this heel turn. So I like, and Okada is that star. He's that star power. You lean into your stars, and obviously for very good reason we're going to discuss later on when we get to when we talk about the final. But
the other big note is leaning into pushing your stars and leaning into pushing the talent. I get those kind of criticisms of you need to build new stars.
Yeah, of course.
When it's the old guard and those old guard are close to finishing or ending their careers, and you need to build up the new guys to come over the top of them. Ospreay's 31, Okada's 36. They're going to be around for a long, long time still.
Yeah.
It's not the same as a guy who's 45, 46, and AJ Styles, for example, as a excellent talent, but maybe you want to push the new young guy over them. No, you want to push your 30-odd-year-old stars. It's the same as saying, well, Roman Reigns shouldn't win because push the new guys, or Seth Rollins shouldn't win, or Drew McIntyre shouldn't win. No, these guys are going to be the mainstay of your television for the next 5 to 10 years, without a doubt. So you need to be not just constantly letting them lose to other people to build them up as stars. You need to make sure these are still cemented as your top guys on the program.
And it's funny when you talk about, like, older talents needing to push people, need to elevate people. That question, that whole topic will be such a center of focus for WWE in 2025 when as Cena begins his retirement run. Because how many people want to see the title on him? And even though he's the biggest star, Cena's a guy who likes to put talent over. He's lost at a lot of WrestleManias recently, just in that alone. So I'm curious to see where they'll go, and that's a hypothetical question for
it is
a
quite
topic.
an interesting talking point, because I was looking at the Royal Rumble odds this morning, and the 3 of the 4 favorites to win the Royal Rumble right now are John Cena, CM Punk, and The Rock.
It's insane.
And I'm like, it's like, am I going back in time, like, to WrestleMania 29 here?
Yeah.
What's going on right now? And it's like, these 3 guys are 3 of the 4 favorites, and the other one is Roman Reigns, of course.
And we do have to pivot to the next match. But again, as somebody who's going to the Elimination Chamber at the Rogers Center in Toronto this March, everybody's talking about how Cena should win 17 or win the title, win 17 at the Chamber. If that happens, I'm going to lose my mind, and I don't think so. But we do got to move on. But again, it's topics like these for another day that get you thinking, and I think also need to be applied for AEW and their young talents. Ricochet, long story short, Kyle Fletcher will be okay, and they will have their moments, but their stepping stones are being laid out. Let them step forward, and they will, trust me. The Tijuana street fight. Mariah May, Thunder Rosa. Mariah May just barely escapes, if you want kayfabe wise, escapes with the title. Thumbtacks galore. Everybody loves their thumbtacks. A little gruesome, I think, for the match. Well, actually, no, in a good kind of way, not like a really, really bad way. Like, I think when it comes to a street fight, and this is what they do, and AEW loves to show that, yes, I guess, quote unquote, women can take these bumps, and Thunder Rosa's crazy, but in a good way, I guess. Colin, let's start off with you. Any thoughts on the match? I mean, I think from what I saw, straight to the point, as expected, good level of brutality. We carry on. I don't know what else to say to that.
Yeah, I mean, we all knew it was going to be a good match, of course. Both are fantastic. And yeah, it was a really good street fight match. It wasn't even gore for the sake of gore either. Like, everything kind of made sense. I don't know. The bravest move, I think, was still Aubrey counting 1, 2, 3 right in the middle of those thumbtacks. I mean,
yeah, that's
her.
Yeah.
She didn't even sell it, so that was fantastic. But anyway. But no, I mean, otherwise, Thunder Rosa still looked great because it was Mariah May winning by the skin of her teeth. It was not an easy win by any stretch. But yeah, I mean, keeping the belt on Mariah, that's also the play. So yeah, I agree with everything that happened. Both look fantastic from it. Nobody's hurting from it in terms of story and what do you call it, momentum or any of that stuff. So yeah, no, it was good. It was a nice match and just kept the pay-per-view popping match to match. So
yeah. Peter.
Yeah, I think it was a good match. Nothing amazing, exceptional compared to some of the other stuff on the card, but it was a good placeholder feud for Mariah, and I think it got her on track, gave her a good win against a very strong opponent in their iconic match as well. So Thunder Rosa's getting a bit of a buzz for these street fights, and it's becoming her iconic match in those things. And as I was saying to Colin, I want to see more and more people get iconic matches and iconic moves within those matches.
Yes, your signature moves that you were going over, especially Thunder Rosa's that she did, running up the half put up table. Yeah.
And that was the biggest pop of the match. And that shows how effective those are. And for Thunder Rosa, it is that half, like almost like planked up table, running up it and hitting a drop kick off it, either into a corner elsewhere. And when that move got hit, the crowd erupted. And they're like,
they knew.
It's like, that's the move we know, we recognize. And I want to see more of those in hardcore matches in general. And I do like the finish. I like the hitting the Storm Zero or whatever Mariah wants to call it now, hitting that through the table on the outside. I think it's a good finish. Thunder Rosa's relatively protected. And I'm interested to see what Mariah does next, which I don't know what that is. It might be
Which is nice too, when something's not obvious. Like, who knows what they're going to come up with next for Mariah? So, because Toni Storm hasn't really acknowledged her yet. She's brand new. She's the rookie on the card on the whole show. So, yeah, I mean, it's there's that psyche breakdown that's going to happen. But
she got a good early win, but I think it's a bit early into her AEW career.
I mean, it was the pre-show though, so I don't think she's being pushed or handed anything, right? I mean, it really is from the ground up. I think they're going to build her correctly this time. So
maybe by the time Australia comes around, but not right now.
No, she's not going to get a main event in America, not yet. No, it's too soon for that. It's too soon for that still.
Needs to really settle into the fold of it. I think it might be Chris Statlander. I think Chris Statlander might be the next feud, because just based on the post-show interview that Statlander did, seem to be I'm fed up of coming close on these title matches. I need to get more serious. What's the point of having these awesome matches to go back to? And then maybe it's even by All In, Toni Storm's being built up as a credible person after being in AEW for about 6-7 months by that point.
Well, I mean, she's got to be patient. I mean, Julia Hart's just coming back now too, right? So, I mean, it's she can bide her time. She's young yet. Yeah. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Get in the line.
Exactly. Yeah. But they're gonna build her correctly. I have faith.
This gimmick's so stupid in the best way possible. Oh my god, it's one of the funniest. It's such a unique gimmick. It's such a unique gimmick. I love this.
I do not know what you're talking about.
Nobody does.
Did you mean just like the skater gimmick of
I'm just playing along with
Toni Storm? Like, that's what.
Oh my god, I love it. I did not think this would be one of my new favorite things. Seeing how this whole it's so funny. It's so good. Like, I think you guys were saying it on the live stream on Saturday, or I think I saw it in the clips that Toni Storm saying that RJ City, Toni Storm saying that she's a 3-time champion. She's like, where? Here?
There's other promotions.
So good.
No, not here. Not in AEW. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Okay. We do got to move on. Next match. I originally called this match the Oompa Loompa match, in which the first person to have the most orange spray tan wins the match. It didn't happen because Adam Cole came out without a spray tan, and I was hoping that everything was okay. The Dynamite Diamond Ring match, or a regular match for the AEW Dynamite Diamond Ring. Wow, that's a mouthful. MJF, Adam Cole, MJF continues to hold on to that ring. I guess this is where he really shines in kayfabe wise, and like he's never gonna lose the ring. I think he's been the only holder of that ring, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
5 times.
Very, very solid match. He did get attacked by the New Elite after, if I'm not mistaken, right? He did get attacked after the match.
Kingdom.
Thank you.
Undisputed Kingdom.
Undisputed. Wow. I know. I don't know where I'm so sorry. I am terribly sorry, folks. This is why
say DX 2.0.
Yeah, I know. But this is why I don't host on a regular basis. But Cole gets the loss. MJF gets the win. But Cole still looks strong with his buddies attacking MJF. And I presume that this isn't over.
And it was also the return of Roderick Strong as well.
Thank you.
He's back from injury. And of course, now Kyle O'Reilly is now... Yeah, O'Reilly. There's 2 people named Kyle. There's so many double and triple names.
It's insane.
Anyway, yeah, Kyle O'Reilly is pretty much seemingly now back in the fold. I kept calling them United Kingdom throughout the nights because, Peter was there.
Of course.
And, but it's Undisputed Kingdom. Anyway, they seem to be all buddies again. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe they'll be going after Death Riders. Who knows?
Pete?
I think realistically this was the worst match of the night, which is more of a credit to the rest of the card than anything else. But I think that's more of a case of its circumstances rather than the match itself, of the investment, the interest in the outcome. I think they tried to make the most of this situation, but this is one where I will agree with some of the online criticism. The booking around this feud has been a bit iffy in general. And I'm hoping now we can just move on to something new for MJF. And then Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roddy can probably just form as that trio. And the one I might like to see is, well, come to the main event. If rated FTR potentially pick up those trios belts at some point, that's a feud I wouldn't mind seeing down the line, of those 3 against rated FTR. potentially putting some prestige back on those trios belts, making them interesting again, getting more of an upper card trios to actually be competing and valuing those belts again. So that's maybe something that they could go into that I would like to see them do. And then MJF always finds something interesting to do usually, but I think he needs to move away from Adam Cole now. I do not want to see this extended any further.
They had to put a pin in the feud. Kind of, okay, it's over now because they couldn't get it back after the injuries. Like, it was no one's fault. It was injuries, right? It killed it, and they forgot who was face and who was heel when they brought everybody back, and it just they couldn't get it back. So it's like, all right, let's put the end of it through the Undisputed Kingdom in there to try to generate and keep interest until they were pushing, obviously, to Saturday's pay-per-view. But yeah, I think it's done now. They can move away from each other, meet up again down the line. Sure, who cares? But they just need to both move on. So
well, that's actually what I wanted to ask Pete. Not that you kind of answered for him, but I figured Pete will say the same thing in the sense of we were talking about this in the World's End preview this past Friday, and asking ourselves, did this feud like take a lot of hits, get a lot of quote unquote damage because of the injuries, because of the one may say even filming since MJF was stepping away from to film Happy Gilmore 2, like all the obstacles kind of came in the way to, and which prolonged this even further, that I think it just kind of hurt it in the end and maybe got to that thought, Pete. Like, you really think like
I think it's all because of the injuries. If I'm
all because of it.
Realistically honest, because Better Than You Baby was the most popular storyline in AEW in 2023. It was over like crazy. I said when you go back to watch that first All In Wembley and see the reactions that Adam Cole and MJF are getting, they are the most popular act in wrestling at that time.
Yeah. And you were there.
And then Adam Cole jumps off the ring ramp and somehow damages his ankle for more than a year from just what looks like a fairly innocuous injury.
Hey, that ring ramp claimed CM Punk too. That's the most dangerous thing in AEW is that ring ramp.
If one claims all the dangerous spots and stuff, it is just the ring ramp. That is the real dangerous spot.
Forget cinder blocks and needles, man. It's that ring ramp.
Ring ramp. That's the terrifying one. And then obviously MJF himself picks up an injury, gets really injured, worn down by the end of the year. So by the time they do this Devil reveal, which the Devil itself wasn't even necessarily a bad storyline because that was somewhat over at the time as well. But they did the reveal and then everyone just kind of disappeared with injury, and we didn't really get that payoff at the time. And by the time everyone was healthy enough to come back and do the payoff, everyone had moved on. So it was probably better off just leaving it as that was a disappointing, underwhelming end to a great storyline. That's okay, it was a bad ending. Let's just leave it and move on to something fresh and new. Instead, they try to give it the end that they thought it deserved, but it was too hard to roll back everything that had happened since then. So,
also, what happened to Wardlow?
we don't speak of Wardlow.
It's like he was just erased. He got just like Men in Black with the flashy thingy, and everybody forgot about him.
Well, we can instead talk about the next match, the AEW International Championship. Takeshita defeating Powerhouse Hobbs. I think this was an obvious win, but again, kind of like the past few matches on this card alone, Powerhouse Hobbs looks like a powerhouse. It actually looks strong, and there's no pun intended because he is actually a freak that I don't want to mess with. Solid match. Again, I think Pete kind of nailed it on the head when he said that the MJF Cole match was potentially the worst. As I think the rest of the way we were clear with solid matches. This was another great example. But again, the bigger story is Hobbs looking like a great competitor and maybe even a title contender down the road.
If he can stay healthy, he's fantastic. Right? That's been his biggest thing is that he'll pick up an injury and whatever, and it's every time he just starts kind of either a new gimmick or a new rivalry, and then he gets injured again, the poor guy, right? So if he stays healthy, it's going to be great. And that was a fantastic Takeshita holding his own with the absolute brick wall tank that he is, and Takeshita still looking amazing as he always does. And I was saying to Pete as well, I was pleasantly surprised, but I'm also not surprised because, of course, I know those two can do really well. But even then, it's still kind of going, this really is a great match. So it was fantastic. Keep Takeshita strong, but it also wasn't an easy win for Takeshita at all either. So Powerhouse still looked great.
Pete?
I'm never surprised by Takeshita putting on a great match. And he did here. He is one of the most reliable hands that AEW has to hold that belt, put on great matches week in, week out, and just look like that dominant force when he's doing it. He is one of the most believable wrestlers. When he comes out and hits someone in the face, like, yeah, that looks like it hurts. He is one of the most believable people at being able to present himself as this really tough guy that you do not want to step into the ring with. And Powerhouse Hobbs, to the same extent, can do exactly the same thing as that. So it was a really nice place on this card for essentially just two meaty physical guys beating off against each other. And for a turn of phrase, intentionally turn of phrase.
Okay, I want to be sure. Okay.
But Powerhouse Hobbs, I think there's a lot of space for his character in AEW.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to those big guys who are those powerhouses and heavyweights, they don't want to push Lance Archer because age, everything associated with him.
Sure.
Wardlow seems to have disappeared out of picture. They don't tend to want to go for Brian Cage because he only seems to sign 1-year contracts at a time, so they don't want to put too much investment behind Brian Cage.
And he's tag teaming with Archer now, so that's all they're doing. So yeah,
probably for those reasons.
Exactly.
Keith Lee, obviously with the health concerns, so you can't have him in that position. So when it comes to those real big physical threats in AEW, there is that gap in the card where he can just fit in nicely as that big muscle where someone brings him out and goes, oh, I don't want to step into the ring with that guy. And I think Hobbs is also a better wrestler than most of the people who fit that build. So he fits in perfectly in this, and I hope he continues. And if he can stay healthy, then I wouldn't be against him potentially climbing up the card. I think it's a very congested thing, but there might be space for him because of his unique appearance, build, everything else to do that. If he can navigate around, because there is still a few other ones, like Lashley's going to come in and take some of that spot on the card as well. But there might be enough space for him, especially in that mid-card title reign. So challenging for the international title, challenging for those continental titles.
Yeah,
being
get
in
him in the tournament next
feuds.
year. Yeah.
I don't think they wanted to risk him in the tournament this year, having come back just from injury.
Not this year. Yeah,
potentially next year, he might be in that position as well to be in that tournament.
One final thing I want to say before we get on to the next match is that I've only seen Takeshita in the handful of pay-per-views that I've seen in this later half of 2024, since that's when I started to jump on. Every single match that I've seen out of that dude, I've been impressed. I'm like, damn, I just met you. I like you. I get blown away in a good way. So I think like if I guess like again as somebody who still feels like mainly an outsider, although it's hard to say because I'm getting more and more into AEW here. It's good to give that first impression and then kind of see where you go from there. And again, it kind of reels you in. So Takeshita, I am a big fan, and again, I think right now he is being a great champ. Again, this is only from the weekly pay-per-views that I've seen, and I think he's a dude that definitely can continue to steer the course with that title until I don't know when, but I think he also have a good run with it. I think.
Yeah. And the international title weight is defended on different pay-per-views, different companies, all that. Takeshi is a type of person who appeals to going to those other promotions when he comes out. Those type of crowds really appreciate him. They appreciate him in Japan, obviously, as well. So when they do try to do that cross-promotional points with that international belt, he is a great ambassador for doing that. And in terms of your getting used to Takeshita and the big matches he put on, I think he really got on people's attentions in their mind was with Omega last year. When they first did that feud, which was at All In, then leading into All Out and had the match in All Out, which was phenomenally great match. And then unsurprisingly this year when he had the feud with Ospreay, his match with Ospreay was again a match of the year contender, as Ospreay has multiple of, but was probably a top 10 match of 2024 as well. And it kind of cemented him as, in AEW's mind, yes, we are confident that this guy can do it. We're confident he can put on those big matches, can do it on the big stage, can go over promotions to represent us, and we know we can trust him.
Well, On that note, again, all great points. Let's move on to the next match, and I think this is where Colin and I will say, well, we were wrong, and Pete will gladly say I was right. The AEW TBS Championship, Mercedes Moné, Chris Statlander, Mercedes retains.
Yeah.
I was saying, and I think Colin agreed with me. I think to end the year, flip a champion. I thought this was one of those championships that deserved a flip to go into 2025. And what I think I've seen people, I know you guys were saying, and I think social media was saying as well, that part 2 was better because they had their match at the last pay-per-view, Wrestle Dream, was it? No, sorry, Full Gear. They had their match at Full Gear. A lot of people were saying that the sequel was better, which is a good sign. But I don't know. I really thought this was Statlander's moment. I don't know what else to say to Pete. I'll start with you here because I know you were pushing for Monet to retain. So why?
Yeah, I was very adamant this was not Statlander's moment.
Okay, fair.
So I think this was the better of the two matches, but I think both matches were excellent. In the first place. And this is what Monet needs to be doing in AEW. It's putting on these fantastic matches, elevating that women's division, and actually proving her word when she comes in and says, I am the best women's wrestler around. I am the ace of this company. I'm going to put this women's division on the map. These are the matches she needs to have to back that up. And this is the longest women's match in AEW history now. I think it was just over 24
minutes,
and a half minutes. Yeah. It was the longest match on the card as well.
It was.
And it was an excellent match to go alongside it. And I thought there might have been a twist here. I thought she might have brought in some lackeys. I mentioned that to Colin at the time. But I'm kind of glad she didn't. And I'm kind of glad she actually just went out and there was a few shortcuts here and there. But for the most part, won a very just clean, competitive match of I'm the better wrestler. And in terms of why I thought you need to stick with Monet and not Statlander is when they're moving to this AEW Max, when they're trying to move to present themselves and market themselves.
Yeah,
she is the name value to go alongside that. When she goes to New Japan strong and wrestles there and holds up the belts and can main event those shows while bringing out the AEW title with it, that's what she can do. Where Chris Statlander will not get that spot on that card, and that's nothing against Chris.
No,
but Monet is that bigger name. And Chris might get there eventually, but for now, in terms of just continuing to build up that women's division as an actual cornerstone of AEW, you want your belts on the star attractions, and that is Mercedes, and that is Mariah May at this point in time. That these are two phenomenally good wrestlers who on any card will put on excellent matches, and you're not going to get what you had at Full Gear last year, where unfortunately you had like Julia Hart versus Abaddon was one of the matches last year, was dreadful, and it just makes everyone go, "Oh, this division, is this what I really want to be seeing?" No, because if you get a Julia Hart against a Mercedes Moné or Julia Hart against Mariah May, you're still going to get a really good match because you know those two wrestlers can carry anybody, and then when they come up against someone who is their equal, like a Chris Statlander, you get a match like this, which is just excellent.
Colin.
I think to go on your point too, I think also Mariah May, we can see that now, but also Mercedes can also bring out the best in everybody. So it's not that they necessarily even have to carry the match as well. They're going to get people to kind of want to be up to their level too. With Julia Hart and Abaddon, Julia Hart, as good as she is, does not have that experience to, I think, was probably supposed to be the quote-unquote ring general of that match, and maybe she just wasn't there yet. I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah, that was not a great match, which was unfortunate. I was saying to you as well during the live stream, my favorite heel is one that doesn't have to cheat, that has all the ego, does all the pure promos of I'm the best, everybody else sucks, and I'm also going to beat you clean. Like, how more annoying can you get? That just sends me right back to the original McMahon-Helmsley era, where Triple H was just destroying everybody and cleanly, and then also just hit him with the sledgehammer just because. So, of course. So that's my favorite and most annoying heel is the one that doesn't have to cheat. So that's what I kind of really walked away with from that match, seeing that in Mercedes. It's not a secret. I cannot stand the CEO gimmick, and I know that's even starting to ruin my proper enjoyment that I should be having of these matches. Usually I'm pretty good at separating a gimmick from a match. I know Hangman definitely tests my will to do that, but the chant, oh my god, it just again also the work of an incredible heel, because damn, that thing is annoying. But yeah, so
yeah,
that's exactly. It's I hate the gimmick. I have never questioned Mercedes' wrestling ability. It's always good. I definitely know that. But oh boy, that gimmick, I cannot stand that gimmick. But yeah, it was a fantastic match.
Yeah,
and I mean, Statlander's still getting better too. So I think they're working out story-wise kind of where her head is at. She's not the alien anymore. She's not, heel with the heel manager anymore. She's just going back to she's a brute ass kicker, and now she's frustrated. So it's be interesting to see who she takes her aggression out on next. So because we know Willow's going after Marina Shafir. So we'll see.
I think to 2 points there. First of all, Chris Statlander with that gimmick change, I really disliked when she dropped her manager and went back to just being a face kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, she should have stayed with Stokely, I think. Yeah.
I disliked that when it happened. It felt like it was trying to force the Monet Statlander matches, and the matches that we got out of it might have been worth it in the end.
Yeah.
But it did feel a bit of a, oh no, we need to rush to get these two together because that's the feud we want. How do we do that? Well, she needs to drop Stokely as a manager and turn face.
Yeah, it was a real quick, real weird restart. Yeah.
It seemed a little bit out of nowhere, but I'm hoping she can now. I think she might be the next feud for Mariah May coming out of this.
Okay.
In a serious thing. And the other one, for Monet's gimmick, what I talked about was the difference between how she was being presented in New Japan versus how she was being presented in AEW.
Okay.
And it felt she was trying to force her character a little bit too much for that Western AEW audience to almost make it WWE-like in a way of it needs to be a slightly over-the-top gimmick and a slightly too much into the catchphrases, too much into the other stuff, which in AEW doesn't work because you don't have that kind of production behind it. You don't have that kind of we're going to get the crowd to chant along this stuff. We're going to get everyone to do that. Unless you are basically MJF, you can't really get that over. And it felt a little bit like she was trying to be both MJF and Christian at the same time, while also being sort of like Moxley of this hardcore badass. And it felt a little bit like she was trying to do too much.
Yeah,
with
a bit too much.
Whereas when she went to New Japan, it was, no, I'm just the dominant person. I'm going to come out here and batter you, and you're going to appreciate me for it. And if you don't, I don't care. It's one. And in the last month or so in AEW, she started to dial it back a bit and get more into that mindset. And probably since they dropped the Camille stuff, she's got into that mindset of, I am going to just beat you now. I am the best in this division. And if she sticks with that, I think she just has a very good character if she keeps coming out and doing what she's done in the last month and stays away with what she's maybe doing the month or two prior to that.
All right. Great points all around. And again, I think that's the biggest point at the end of the day. Like a clean heel win to look more dominant. Don't force it. And I think it's going to go far. And if that is what's turning the case for her, then so be it. But like Colin, the gimmick irritates me too. But the problem is I lean into the heel work of that, and then I look absolutely dumb. Anyway, I think the bigger talking point of the night, and I would argue maybe the best match of the night, the Continental Classic final, Okada Ospreay, part 4. If you're a New Japan fan, I think part 3 or part 4. If you pay attention to New Japan, the part 10, I lied. Never mind, I'm way off.
Right? No, I thought it was 11. I thought Okada's 9 and 2 now.
11. Yeah, this is part 11.
This is their 11th match. Okada now winning 9. Ospreay only winning 2.
That is a shame. And look, and what I was gonna say at the during our semifinal talk, I'm gonna say it now. Well, I've said it already, but I want to emphasize it even more. This is why you have your 2 biggest stars, your two better developed, your better talent in this final. That I was saying that from the start. I'm like, I get it. Like I said in the semifinals, I get it. But to me, as a casual, there's no way I don't want Okada versus Ospreay. There was no way. And like again, like it's an introduction for the Western audience, and I think for people to complain and say, no, we already saw this in New Japan. Okay, not everybody watches everything. I think that is the biggest takeaway here is that not everybody watches everything on a regular basis. You can't assume everybody is quote unquote as smart as you. You can't assume that the audience is super smart as well. Brilliant for them to introduce it in AEW. What a match. The bandage, the blood, I think came into play. But I think at the end of the day, the bigger story, apart from Okada winning, was the return that a lot of people were waiting for. I think you guys
Christopher
were saying,
Daniels. Oh,
no,
sorry. I mean, the
right.
other guy.
Well, yes, Christopher Daniels did bring out the return of Kenny Omega. And I think you guys were saying, when does Kenny show up? Could it be at the end of the pay-per-view? But I think against Okada was a brilliant idea. And the brilliant camera work of just having both of them stand facing each other, but however, the All In Texas banner in the background was fantastic. I know that's in July, and once again, I've already seen some criticism saying, well, why do we have to wait that long for it? Because it'll make you want to get tickets for All In, and it'll make you want to get like a wait All In. You do this. Rock Cena was introduced a year in advance, which is hilarious. The night after WrestleMania 27, they set up a match for WrestleMania 28 in Miami. It's not unusual. It's happened in wrestling before. I feel like I've seen people criticize just to criticize. I think that applies here.
The internet.
Exactly. But again, it's to me, and I've seen Okada and Omega in New Japan. Of course I have. But I enjoyed it. It was like one of the only few times I've seen Omega and Okada or New Japan as a whole. I remember like my friends telling me to get excited for it, and we all watched it the morning after a couple of Wrestle Kingdoms, and we're going, damn, their match at Dominion, damn, fantastic all around. So go ahead. I will gladly wait 7 months until All In Texas, July 25th at Globe Life Field. I think it's July 25th, but I know it's definitely at Globe Life Field. Whoever wants to start, gentlemen, I think really our talking points is, I think the end of the match, or I mean, what else can you say about the match itself? Whoever wants to start.
So, I think this was match of the night without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it's kind of impressive that they both came out and had this match after having already had a match in the night in the first place and go, yep, we're just going to put another 20-minute classic because that's what we do together. Most people who are actual fans of New Japan and not fake fans of New Japan, when we thought this was the match, were going, hell yes.
Yeah.
Give me that again, because we just know what these guys can do in the ring together, the chemistry that they have, the whole mentor-student relationship between them. As Okada said, you're like my little brother. You might be on another level, but you're not on my level, bitch. It's their relationship is one that most New Japan fans who are actual New Japan fans just love it. And they every time these two get together, you're like, yes, give me more of it, give me more of it. And they came out and had what most people have almost been waiting for Okada to do in AEW, and that's put on these type of matches.
Yeah.
And it's also a bit of a slap in the face to all the people who go, oh, Will Ospreay doesn't sell. Will Ospreay doesn't.
Oh my god.
He proved everyone wrong in that matter. What I would say is I think Kenny Omega should have come out at the end of the show, but that's because I think this should have been the main event of the show.
Oh.
If they were the main event, okay, yeah.
I think this should have main evented the entire card, and I think you should have. It kind of presents the Continental Classic on that next level as well, and try to establish it as that tournament of, no, the final of this is really important. Whoever wins this, it matters. And then having that Okada versus Omega stare down just to close lights off. I know you kind of had that anyway with a different thing, which we'll come to, but I think that was the moment of the show. Those two getting into the ring. And I'm really, really glad they did not get physical. And a few people are like, oh, why didn't they just go straight into the beatdown? Okada put Omega on the shelf. No. You just want to tease here, just a little tease of, oh, wait, this is what we're building to. This is what we're going to be getting. And there's, as you said, 7 months to start getting physical, start building this up, start doing any of these other moments. But Omega's going to go to Japan now. He's going to have a match or two over in Japan. I don't know if Okada's going to follow him there. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But I just want them to not be interacting every week, but maybe once a month on the pay-per-views, every now and then, just these little interactions of, this is what's going to happen. We both know this is happening at All In. Guys, get the tickets. This is going to happen at All In. And for those who are saying, what if they've lost a step? Omega is not going to come back to wrestle unless he knows he can still be the Kenny Omega he wants to be.
Yeah.
And Okada is still in his prime. Okada is still in his prime. And sod anything else you do for All In. Just book this as the main event. I don't care if it's for the Continental title. I don't care if it's anything else. Just say, this is going to be a 60-minute Iron Man match. This is going to be one of the best matches ever on Western soil. You want to come and turn up to watch this match. It's going to main event the show. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and again, for me, as the non-regular AEW watcher, I need that as a main event. To me, that already makes me want to consider buying that pay-per-view because it's Omega and Okada. I get it. Western TV is different in terms of, yes, you have weekly episodes this time, and it's going to be tougher to kind of build that up. But I think these guys can hold off on the 7 months, and I think that they can really build it in between again. And the funny thing is, like, it doesn't need to be that consistent either when it comes to this build. Again, I know it's a weekly television. There's monthly pay-per-views. You don't need to consistently have them butting heads for 7 months. Yeah, it's gonna be overexposed, absolutely. And then maybe to the point where probably it's gonna be a couple of pay-per-views before All In. But if you have Omega doing his own thing in AEW, Okada doing his own thing in AEW, and then kind of like the where, okay, let me think here. This is gonna be a random comparison. Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan at the 1990 Royal Rumble. And again, that's really weird, but they weren't facing off every week, but then all of a sudden they just happened to be in the same ring at during the Royal Rumble match. And it was a tease for what eventually happened at WrestleMania 6.
So test out reactions, though.
Test out reactions and everything. And so it's not a fair comparison, but I think in terms of like that and that moment right there, it's like, hey, this could be a thing. And then eventually and slowly, and yes, I know there wasn't a benefit of weekly TV, but still, slowly, they found a way to get to promote the match, to set up the match, and then eventually have their classic at WrestleMania 6 in the beautiful city known as Toronto. Colin, your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, so I completely understand the point of Ospreay and Okada should have been the main event. However, how special they are, and this would also translate to Okada and Omega, of course, as well. How special they are, that match, it doesn't matter what promotion they're in when they wrestle.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. They're standalone by themselves. It's like we were talking about during the stream, wrestlers that it doesn't matter what promotion they're in, we're invested. I was always invested in Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, whatever. It didn't matter that he was in WWE or AEW, right? So those are wrestlers. Will Ospreay is like that. Kenny Omega is obviously like that. Okada's like that. It doesn't. Their promotion they're in doesn't matter.
For me, it's Okada. Yeah.
So the point of an AEW pay-per-view is that an AEW story is going to take precedence, and it should. And the biggest story happening in AEW right now, and the biggest AEW story is, of course, Death Riders and trying to take over AEW. So aside from the return that happened, even without that, that was still the correct main event.
Yeah.
Also,
just to explain why I disagree is just purely because I know the biggest story is the Death Riders. The biggest thing for the last month on AEW TV is the Continental Classic.
Sure.
And it's the tournament itself is the biggest thing that they've been presenting. And that's the AEW. But that's why it's AEW specifically, because it's the tournament and it's established that tournament as being so important. I'll pass it back to you, but that's just that's the only reason why I disagree on that.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But I think also that tournament is going to be special no matter where it is on the card. So people will stop and go, okay, we had opening semifinals and then we have the thing a little bit later. Those matches are special enough, I think, especially after this year. People will stop and get their drink and their next snack later after the match, wherever it is on the card as well. But yeah, I completely understand your point. Yeah, but I think the placement of the Continental matches and, of course, the main event that happened, I think was correct.
But I see both of your points, and obviously, I mean, I think Pete knows how annoying I am with this WrestleMania, but WrestleMania 18 is the first example that comes to mind, right? The biggest story wasn't the main event because of the tradition of the title closing out the show. and everybody ended up saying Rock Hogan should have closed, not Triple H and Jericho. But Pete brings up an excellent point. It's like when the Royal Rumble doesn't close the night, and it's a WWF Championship match instead. When the name of the pay-per-view is the Royal Rumble, right? I remember seeing like in the 1997 Royal Rumble, like the Royal Rumble match happening, but then Michaels and Psycho Sid closed off, even though it was Michaels' hometown.
I think I get your point, Jose. Is what you're saying is at the end of this pay-per-view, the world should have ended. That's what I'm saying, because that's the name of the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
The pay-per-view should have closed with the world exploding.
Okay, so my point kind of backfired here. But I think for damn it the hell, that was on a roll.
I love this guy.
Can't swear, but yes, you're right. But I think, when it comes to focusing on the Continental Classic, because that was the biggest, I hate you so much, because this was the biggest build leading into it, Pete is right from that perspective. But yes, when it comes to literal names, yes, the Armageddon should have happened Saturday night, and I backed myself into a corner there. But my point stands, okay, gentlemen? My point absolutely stands. I have no excuse for that one. That was embarrassing.
To go on one of your other points, though, when you were on about like the build of it being 7 months down the line, it's weird because the criticism I'm getting of people saying it should be, why are we waiting 7 months, seems to be more from the WWE fan base to an extent of, the AEW fans seem to be like, we want to do this at Texas. We want to wait this.
It deserves a big stage,
Criticism I tend to be seeing is like, why are you building this now? Why are we waiting 7 months for this? Surely you want to do this match at Revolution or something. Seems to be coming from more of the casual WWE fan base, which doesn't really make sense to me. Because WWE is more common in doing these sort of hinting at what the match is going to be almost a year in advance.
Right.
Down the line. So if you look at like Cody Roman, we all knew Cody versus Roman was main eventing WrestleMania 40 as soon as WrestleMania 39 finished.
Wrapped up. Yeah.
It was straight away. As soon as that match finished, we went, well, that's going to be the main event next year, and that's going to be the title match next year. And people are already wanting to look for tickets to it. So it's one of those things where, and looking at the Roman Cody storyline, they weren't interacting every week.
No.
They barely interacted at all. It was just now and then there's these little teasers, little stare downs, just, I'm still coming for you. I still want that while I'm dealing with this other stuff. And then when you got to a few months before it, it was suddenly, no, now that's my match. Now that's what I'm coming for. Now I'm ready to get that. And that's what you can do here as well.
Yep.
And you'll eventually get something like Double or Nothing. You're going to get like a breakdown at like an Anarchy of the Arena match or something. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get Okada and Omega. Because we was one point where they're both wrestling and the ring's just going to clear out and just leave the two of them standing there. Yeah. And that crowd will just erupt.
Yeah.
Because they know it's just going to be teased. And as soon as they lay any contact before that match, that crowd will erupt. And that's all you're building to, and that's what you're waiting for.
Yeah, they don't even have to do promos. They just say, this is the match, this is where it's happening. That's it. I would love if they had the guts that they don't even look at each other again until the match happens. I know they won't do that, but you're still going to have the same amount of feeding frenzy for that match, even if they never look at each other again until it happens.
And the Cody, that AEW atmosphere that you got at the start of this match as well, where at the start of Okada Ospreay, you talk about why they do these matches in AEW, is for that start of the match where the fans, before a thing has been thrown, this is awesome. They're on their feet, giving an ovation.
They're going crazy.
They're ready for it. And
Holy S match, it's already happening. They hadn't even touched yet, and people.
Ospreay versus Darby Allin had a similar thing because there's one of these. There's an appreciation among the fans who go to watch these pay-per-views or are really hardcore fans of AEW of, we know how good these wrestlers are and we are just ready to appreciate what we are about to see. And it kind of brought back to the best example that is still Omega versus Danielson, when they first stared each other down at Grand Slam at the start of that match, and the crowd just erupts before the match, before the bell rings. They don't make contact, they just stand there, and the crowd standing ovation. This is awesome. And you got it to an extent before this match. You will get that again before Okada and Omega lay hands on each other. At the start of that match, that crowd will erupt as soon as that bell rings, because they know the history there. They know that this is maybe the greatest match of all time was between these two, and I am going to get to experience that in America.
And a couple of, I think also as well, like with that face off, it'll encourage casual fans who don't know the history to look it up, because if they're seeing social media react the way that they are with this, some people are gonna go, wait, why are they reacting like this? And then look up their New Japan history. With the Cody point that you made, again, I've said this on the Ringside Heat before, that when I was in my living room watching the conclusion of Roman and Cody, and after Roman shockingly won, the first thing I thought of is, we're getting something special next year. And mind you, I already had my mind set on going to WrestleMania 40, because I said I wanted, it's time for my second WrestleMania once I heard Philadelphia. But my mindset is coming next year. And there were a lot of complaints, and there were so many complaints saying, well, this is going to be dumb. Like, we know it's coming. I'm like, but you're still going to get that special moment. And Cody, for that year, became tag champ with Jey Uso, was in programs with Brock Lesnar. The Rumble happened, and then even The Rock interfered. It's funny because everybody's like, "Oh, great, this is pointless. This is not going to happen, right? Here's going to happen. Here comes the expecting." Everybody kind of was like up and down with this, saying this is kind of dumb that it's part 2. And then The Rock interferes, takes his title match, and all of a sudden it's wait, no, it's got to be Cody. And then they somehow
you take part 2 from me.
Yeah, exactly. From complaining about getting part 2 to no. That makes sense. That's what we need. Everybody here like reeled right back in. And again, like I said, one of the biggest complaints was, how do you make this more relevant? They found a way. They hooked everybody in. And that was within a year.
To just say, my complaint was never to get Cody versus Roman 2. As soon as it happened, I was like, you have to do Cody versus Roman 2. My complaint was, I was bored of Roman Reigns' title reign by that point in time, and I knew it was going to last at least another 12 months before he lost that title. That was where my complaint was.
Absolutely.
I was complaining about it, but I was complaining about it for different reasons at the same time.
And I don't want to ignore that either, because that's also crept into my mind. Because once I said we're getting this next year, my mind went, oh no, that's another 12 months of Roman. Yeah. And it happened.
Whereas
but again,
I'm very happy to see another 6 months of Okada with that title. I've got no issues with that happening. And even if he loses the title, I don't think that matters, because we know the match is going to happen either way. It's one of those situations.
And look, to me, at the end of the day, I was in my seat. I cried in Lincoln Financial Field. I was super happy. And the childhood Jose just jumps for joy. And I'll forever treasure that till my dying days. All right.
Lincoln Financial Field is the home of happiness.
Yes, it's Pete is a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, Colin, and I always find it kind of funny that I go into the stadium of his team before him, and I'm not even an Eagles fan, and I'm like, Pete would have loved this. That's all I. That's all I can
You're not even watching the Eagles either.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, Pete would love to be here, and I don't think I said that to him,
Jason Kelsey was there.
Yes, and I actually enjoyed that. I actually enjoyed that spot moment. My buddy, however, who is a big Dallas Cowboys fan, hated every bit of it, which made me laugh. Okay, I know. The main event. Obviously, it's funny because like we just talked about like how great this conversation lasted literally 20 minutes of how exciting the content of the classic and the preview that what's the future that comes out of it. But this, I don't know how much longer this is going to go, but Moxley, the 4-way match, retains against Cassidy, Hangman, and Jay White. Expected finish. I think the expected result. Because again, I think everybody's loving his Death Riders angle. I think Moxley again is that dominant champion that he should be. This has been a lot of fun seeing him really get aggressive. The turning off the lights at Rampage was entertaining, and again, the expected match. But to me, at least, excuse me, my voice cracked. To me, at least, it was the post-match that got me excited because one of my old favorites, the specific rated R superstar, made his return after shattering his ankle, jumping off the top of a cage. Mr. Adam Copeland, or as I still like to call him, Edge, returned with FTR. So that's all my focus at the end of the day is, and it looks like I think people were making memes that Adam Copeland just simply hates the Shield because he went after Roman, he went after Seth, and now he went after quote unquote Dean Ambrose in hindsight, even though it's illegal to say these days.
All with the same finish.
Yep, everything. All with the pipe and everything. And I'm going, that's kind of funny. And it's weirdly a full circle. I don't want to say a full circle moment, but that's just kind of funny that all members of the Shield got the same reaction, got the same treatment. Gentlemen, your thoughts on the match? But I think honestly, your main reaction is going to be towards the post. Oh, actually, but I do want to bring up that blood in the back of the head from Mox's. But the back of Mox's head Holy heck, that looked gnarly. The cut that he got in the back of the neck, near the top of the neck, near his neck. Whew,
unless it's been confirmed, we were assuming that came from the Shield-like power bomb through the table, and I think that's why all of a sudden the rest of the Death Riders came out and got Moxley out of there. I think it was a quick check to see exactly how bad that was, making sure he could continue the match, obviously, because he had to continue the match for the whole payoff later.
Bad.
Yeah. So I think it was just a legit, and he hit the corner, something scraped with that fantastic looking Shield powerbomb through the table. It was a great spot, one of the spots of the night, I think, actually. That was very cool. But it was just complete. I mean, nobody blades at the back of their neck. That doesn't make any sense. So so obviously that's what that was. But of course, I mean, Mox, he will fight through anything. Call professionalism, calling it not knowing when to die. Who knows? But yeah.
So, Colin, why don't you go first and divulge into your thoughts on the match, and also your thoughts on apparently counting for a countout in a fatal 4-way match.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that too. First of all, I would like to say that I know how to plan things. If I had planned things correctly, I would have changed my nameplate here to actually say rated instead of @Risen72 to match my shirts.
Promote the socials.
So I'm definitely waiting for the new rated FTR shirt to replace my very vintage and very rare CMFTR shirt. But anyway, we'll get to that eventually. I looked, but it was just his new shirt that said rated Coke, which is silly to me. But I'm not going to get that. But anyway, the announcers. If the announcers aren't sure about the rules, everybody watching is screwed. If they don't know, how are we supposed to know? They are there to relay the information of, oh, hey, remember, folks, it's a fatal 4-way. Wait, the ref's counting them out. Oh, no, wait a minute. Are there countouts in a fatal 4-way? How do all of these veteran... You got Shivani and JR, which is probably, over 100 years between the two of them, plus Excalibur. And come on, none of them knew for sure how a fatal 4-way works.
I think they were confused. And for what it's worth, I do think this is a footnote in the main event. It's a very small footnote. It was just kind of funny. But I don't want people to what?
I said you brought it up, and now I'm gonna rant and go nuts.
It's a very small footnote. Sorry, I'll throw it back to you, Colin. But I just want to say it's a very small footnote in the match, and I think the commentators just ended up being confused. But it was just a fun little really weird, quirky moment that, again, I don't want people to think that it takes away from the entire match. If you let that moment take away from the entire match, I don't know what to tell you. Colin, continue.
Well, it wasn't that. It was the microphone. But anyway, no, it wasn't. I'm kidding.
Colin, continue.
Thank you. I might be taking this from what you were going to say, Pete, though, but Mox was right. The story of the match was that the three of them could not see past themselves, and he was going to get away with the win, and that's exactly what happened, which is the most impressive thing was, of course, he wanted this match. This 4-way was his idea. So they told that story perfectly. And then to cap it all off, we finally see, after all of this Death Rider nonsense, Moxley finally got beat up thanks to Rated R, Adam #1, Adam Copeland, everybody's favorite Edge in our hearts. But yeah, they all did well. Jay White is, I guess, a face now, kind of self-serving face. Hangman is supposed to be face, but I retain he cannot be a face and have crazy eyes.
He came out the heel tunnel. It's fine.
I know he came out of the heel tunnel, but he's supposed to be face now, kind of, even though it was the heel tunnel and crazy eyes. So he's not.
I think Hangman is just Hangman. I don't think
that's what I think so as well.
Nobody knows.
He almost kind of transcends this heel face point to the even in the Swerve feud, it's he burned down the house, but technically he burned down the house of the guy who was stalking his kid. So how much of a
I mean, it's weird. We all know. I mean, there was gunplay in the Attitude Era between Brian Pillman and Austin and all that kind of stuff, right? So I mean, it's still not the craziest thing that we've all seen if you're longtime fans like myself, anyway. So yeah, we know that, but it's the Mercedes Moné problem. I cannot stand the gimmick, but he
love the gimmick.
always puts on a great match. So and that's the whole thing. I was fine with him as champion and all that kind of stuff. Him and Omega and him versus the Elite to get that belt, fantastic. One of the best stories that AEW's done in these 5 years, for sure. But Crazy Eyes Hangman, whatever. But yeah, anyway, the match was great. Mox was right. And then FTR is chauffeuring another former WWE talent, so it's great.
Pete.
First of all, Hangman Page is my favorite character in AEW.
There you go.
Without a doubt.
The only thing I don't like about Pete.
Without a doubt, whenever Hangman talks, I listen. Whenever he is on a rant, I care. Whenever he comes out, I don't know what he's going to do next right now, and I kind of love that because he's almost a justified psychopath, might be the best way I can describe it. He's clearly gone way overboard, but I kind of get why. It's to the point where you almost trust him. To come back to this match, though, this is maybe the most confused I've ever been on how I feel about a main event of AEW.
Ooh.
First of all, I think the general storytelling in the match itself was fine. It was good. It was, as you said, it was the whole Mox is right.
Yeah.
And I think people seem to struggle to understand that Mox isn't a cowardly heel. Mox isn't a kind of runaway, cheat, do all this type of stuff. He does cheat because basically he has his goons come in and take people out and stuff.
Yeah.
But he is still a badass heel, and it's more, I believe in my ideals and I will do whatever it takes to get my ideals through. And he doesn't necessarily believe he's in the wrong on anything he's doing. So even though everyone thinks they need to save themselves from Mox feels like he's saving everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more of what his gimmick is I want you guys to rise to the occasion. I want you to prove that you're not a comedy act. I want you to make AEW the vision that I have of what AEW should look like. The reason I kind of got mixed feelings, and it kind of comes back to what you Jose said, most people are loving the Death Rider story. I think the Death Rider story is getting very mixed reactions online, across the board, everything. I think some people love it. Some people kind of hate it. They've taken the belt away. Some people think this is a little bit silly, the fact that they're almost trying to kill people all the time, the way they're going about it. But the reason I have such mixed feelings is the ending of this show. And I love Edge, Adam Copeland, whatever you want to call him. I love seeing him back. It made me excited to see him come out.
Mm-hmm.
But after 24 hours to think about it, I don't think it makes sense.
That I can't blame you on that. I can't blame you. I wasn't even. I feel like, sorry to interrupt, but I feel like I kind of had that mindset as well. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm happy, but okay.
Yeah,
continue. But I get it.
As I said, I love Adam Copeland. I love Edge in WWE. I just don't understand why he has an issue with Mox.
Yeah.
Or what his problem with Mox is, or why he is the one to try and challenge Mox. Because Mox's big issue is people not stepping up to the plate, letting WWE guys come in and steal their jobs, letting basically being comedy versions of themselves, not taking things seriously. You need to stand up, be a badass, and come and take me on. Adam Copeland was already being that, in that he came in as this top guy. He was taking a feud with Christian really seriously. He was going above and beyond. He was doing these cage matches. He had a big feud with Malachi Black. He had the big hardcore match with Christian. That was great.
And the weekly open challenges.
Exactly. And he was taking the wrestling seriously. He was taking the whole gimmick seriously. He was doing all this stuff. So I don't understand why he dislikes Mox. And I can kind of get, okay, I actually just want to come for the title. Maybe that's it.
I think that's
and
really
maybe in a few weeks he'll come through and just be like, no, I just want the belt. I want to be the top guy. And that's fine. If that's the justification, so be it. But I think how much I like this main event will probably depend on what happens in the next 2 weeks. And it'll be very much a hindsight of, do I like that Copeland came out to challenge Mox, or do I dislike it? Because in terms of Mox's actual gimmick and storytelling and who his adversary should be, it's not Copeland, because he's not an AEW original guy. He's not one of these guys that have maybe underdelivered or turned into a comedy guy. It's not someone like Ospreay where he's like, I think you can be better than what you are doing. And why you in the mid card, you should be the one holding this company to a higher esteem. You should be carrying this company. He's none of these gimmicks where they feel the natural opponent to Mox, where Jay White was under-delivering. Made sense. Hangman was lost in his ways, had gone away from being this top champion. Orange Cassidy was this supposed like comedy gimmick, and he wanted him to step up and take things more seriously. Darby Allin, like, are you actually finally going to take that leap into the main event scene? These are natural adversaries to Mox's character. Edge isn't, and that's why I have that mixed feelings of an old WWE guy rather than a young guy who needs to elevate to that next level, being the one to try and take him on. And if Copeland actually ends up being the one to beat him, I think it's a terrible choice.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. And that's just coming from I think these guys know that Adam Copeland is like usually my favorite, one of my favorites of all time. Mm-hmm. I would hate it. I would hate it.
I don't have anything against Copeland eventually.
Neither do I. Well, yeah, of course not.
Just he's not the one for this storyline to be the one to take it down. So it depends where it goes next. We will see. And there was also kind of no big twist in terms of the actual Death Riders themselves. And that's what I was kind of hoping for. Over World's End, a lot of the promotional marketing was them going out of the desert, signaling things, what's going to happen next in the storyline. It kind of ended in the status quo. And by that, I mean, they left the exact same as they came in with just one extra enemy. There was no new guy on their team. No one turned. No one joined them. And I think Colin made a point. He thought Jay White might turn and join them during this match. And it might end up with like a fifth guy in there. Maybe someone else came in. I did not want it to be Shane McMahon. But I kind of wanted something more. And that feels weird considering Edge came back. But I kind of wanted something new to make me go, ooh, this is where they're going next. And Edge vs. Mox is, I'll see where it goes. Maybe I'll like it. Maybe I won't. I don't know yet.
Well, Colin expected a sacrifice of Orange Cassidy as well.
Yeah, I was thinking that. But even Pete, like when FTR came out, or like, oh, who's the third guy? And you're like, well, obviously it's Edge because of the graphic they already put up with the mystery person for Fight for the Fallen this Wednesday, and all that kind of thing. And I was thinking, and I didn't completely articulate it, but in my mind, especially, I'm like, I mean, yeah, I guess Edge, but in terms of who's the savior of AEW, there's no reason why it's Edge. Edge isn't an AEW guy.
Yeah.
I also don't see Will Ospreay or Okada as AEW people. They're just in AEW doing what they're going to do no matter what. Like Edge is in AEW doing what he's going to do no matter what, right? So,
and it's kind of why some people thought Omega might come back for the main event, because he is Mr. AEW. He is the EVP of AEW.
And to that point, I think that's too soon. That you hold off. So I like Omega is now busy with Okada for a good 6-7 months. And maybe John has a long reign right to.
I think he does.
You know what I mean?
This isn't a reign that should be cut short, regardless of what people like or not. Yeah. Like if it does end up being Copeland and Moxley, Copeland's not winning. If he does, only, and I don't like that I'm manifesting this. If there was a reason for him to win, it's because of Christian.
Yeah. Only so Christian can cash in.
With that cash.
Christian would have to cash in immediately.
Immediately.
That's it would have to be the same as the way
the TNT.
Copeland lost the TNT title immediately. He would have to lose the world title in the exact same manner.
And if that happens, I will love that and I will pop for that. But I will also be mad that completely undercuts everything they did with that.
Yep. That's exactly what I was just about to say. Is that. Yep. If that happens, you just threw away what was, I don't know if it was going to be really, really special, but you threw away something that had a ton of momentum for the sake of a Copeland Christian part 85.
And, they took their time to build that too. And you could almost say Swerve was thrown under the Death Rider bus because Brian needed the title to complete this Death Rider ascension, right? You could argue that.
The only other thing that kind of comes to my mind is when Christian won that cash-in opportunity, a lot of people thought it was a weird choice at the time. And I like what he's done with it, and I like that he does all this lurking in the background stuff, and I like how his gimmick is.
Best horrified face I've ever seen last night. Sorry to interrupt, but that was a fantastic horrified face when Edge came out. That was beautiful.
Without a doubt.
That only Christian could do. Sorry, go ahead.
But I do kind of wonder if AEW regrets it to an extent. I don't know if they want to put the belt on Christian.
Yeah.
Because they have the Mox thing going with as a heel right now. They kind of want to put it on Darby at some point. You can tell at some point they'll want to put it on Ospreay. They might want to bring it back to Omega. How much do they want to put that belt on Christian? And I don't know if they're looking for a way out of it. And what I kind of wonder could happen is during Copeland versus Mox, Christian looks to cash in and loses because of Edge or Adam Copeland. And that's the way they get it off him.
They
do one more match together, and then they team up afterwards, and then they have their final tag run together that comes out of essentially Edge losing the match, and then Christian losing his title shot. They have one more match to kind of decide it. At the end of it, they do a let's hug in the middle of the ring of we've gained each other's respect. One more run. One more thing together. Let's go and try and win those tag belts.
They destroy Private Party.
This turned very beautiful.
But that's a potential. If I was looking for an out,
that's
the
way to do it.
That's the best.
That's the out you can do, and you still give them the feel good. That it doesn't feel like the Christian thing was wasted because it led to Christian and Edge reuniting to try and get their final tag run as Edge and Christian together.
And honestly,
technically, be Corp and Christian, but you get the point.
5-second poses in AEW. Oh, I can dream.
I think that's what is the kind of issue when it comes to these cash-in situations. I know WWE's faced those kind of issues before, and I think right now you can argue that they're in that. No, actually, not really. They're kind of in that spot with Tiffany Stratton, and when does she cash in? What do you do? When does it eventually happen? And is it even worth it at this rate because of how many times we get the teases? Blah blah blah. I don't think that Christian's on that trajectory.
Yeah,
but it's that general. I think it's a general consensus of what happens with them when an individual has this opportunity. I think it happened to Austin Theory. It happened to Otis. I think Baron Corbin, was suffering through that at one point with the Money in the Bank, and I can see why you would say that, Pete, for Christian, because right now it's like I don't see. Originally, I told Colin for fun during our World's End preview that the reason it's a fatal 4-way with no disqualifications is so Christian can sneak in and just get it out of the way. But again, you set up that same issue that we just said. You just destroyed what Mox has built up. So again, now the question pivots to when do you strike down on Mox's reign and the whole story, and how do you do it? And I don't know if that's the right way. Yeah. And I don't know what is the appropriate way to end this other than it needs to be a very credible character, like maybe a Darby, maybe an Omega. For me, it's Ospreay as the guy to take down the Death Riders and overcome them. I think that's obviously your best route for that.
Well, so during the stream yesterday, I said there's 4 guys who can do it. It's Darby, Swerve, Ospreay, and Hangman, and those are the 4 people who can viably take down Moxley.
I'm biased.
I would swap out Hangman for Cassidy, but yeah.
I think it should be Darby or Hangman because they make more sense as a Mr. AEW to be the guy to take it down. But I'm not against one of the others just because they are the big face. And I think when you're talking about those cash-in opportunities, and it's something I've said for a long time, is when you decide who is going to win that, you need to look beyond what your current plan is.
Yeah, you need to.
And if you're, and I think it's why WWE actually do so many same night cash-ins or later on, because then they don't need to worry about plans changing. They can just go, oh, it's out of the way now, and I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
And as much as that's frustrating for a fan, I kind of get it from a booking standpoint. The
McIntyre thing I think worked out because you had an incredible Hell in a Cell. I get it that you unfortunately lose out on a talent who you could potentially build, but again, out of the competitors in that match, the question was, okay, well, where do you go from there? Who's the person to eventually figure it out along the way? And then also my mindset is, well, you don't cash it in on Cody because he's having an incredible run. Well, I think it's an incredible run. Or you don't want to interfere with what's going to happen with potentially The Rock or whoever at WrestleMania 41. And then on Gunther's side, it's do you want to quickly end a dominant reign? Which again, I think it's a fantastic reign so far from the Ring General. So I think I think from that perspective, the best case was, let's just use this as a prop for this feud, because that's all Drew's focusing on anyway. So
I think WWE also have the kind of thing of a lot of their title runs are very dominant now, and they try to have these 300+ day title runs quite regularly. That makes it very hard to even do cash-ins.
Yeah.
But when I'm thinking of a cash-in, what you need to do is kind of decide, no matter which direction we go in, if this person eventually cashes in, the fans will be happy.
Oh yeah.
And that's so, which is why when they were doing that match at All In, I was so convinced Hangman was winning that match. Because Hangman, with that contract, when he cashes in, no one in AEW or no loyal AEW fan is going to go, oh no, Hangman's the world champion. Because most of them, except for maybe Colin, but most of them...
I would say that, but I would also get it. I get separating myself with my own issues. I understand.
But like, if you're in WWE, if you put the Money in the Bank on someone like Kevin Owens or a Sami Zayn or someone like that, when they cash in, the fans are going to be happy. In AEW, if it's an Ospreay, if it's a Swerve, if it's a Hangman, someone like that, no matter where it goes, when they eventually that music hits and they come to cash it in, the fans are going to be happy that the belt is on this person at the end of it. Christian's a risky one because there are scenarios where Christian, it will work, and the fans are like, yeah, I like this story, I like it. Or there's scenarios right now where you're going, if Christian ends up with this belt, it feels a waste.
Yep.
And that's the concern that they currently have, and that's why I think they might regret it. They might not. They might have a plan, and they might be very happy with their plan. But I don't see it.
All right, well, I'm going to add this into it just because I thought of it. A faction that's not working is when you only care about one person. I am such a huge Christian fan. I only care about Christian. I do not care at all about anybody else in the patriarchy. So therefore, that would tell me...
I cared about Killswitch until he got his illness.
I liked him. He was fine. He just needed to not be in there, because I think that was ultimately hurting him in the long run, because over and over they kept teasing, he's going to turn, and so that just got boring, even though I do really like
it went too far.
Yeah, it went too far. But, so the thing is, I would say, with that determination, patriarchy is a bad faction, because I don't care about Christian, but I'm also such a huge Christian fan, so it doesn't matter. The only other thing I would also say is that having Christian with a cash-in and also Edge back in the mix, you have two people famous for, in their gimmicks, no matter what iteration of their gimmick, are the most opportunistic people. And in the center of all of it is the two of them and a cash-in opportunity. So I love that, just being a fan of them over now two promotions, right? So, yeah. And, well, even Christian Cage was like that a little bit in TNA as well. I did follow him to TNA for a little while, too. Because, again, such a huge Christian fan.
Pete, last thoughts?
I was just thinking, as much as I like Kip Sabian and his stuff that he does, I kind of get your point, and I would have almost preferred it just stayed as Christian and Nick Wayne.
Yeah. He's invisible in the patriarchy now. Yeah.
I quite liked Christian kind of being this like mentor father to Nick Wayne.
Yeah.
And I would have liked it, and the fact that whenever stuff goes to shit, he just leaves Nick Wayne to get annihilated. Yeah. So he's actually a pretty shit dad. Yeah. But pretends
he's the Wheeler Yuta of the patriarchy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I really like that dynamic, and I'm not sure. Kip Sabian felt very much like we need a third guy because Killswitch, unfortunate medical situation with him. Yeah. As far as I heard, I think he's better now, but they're still not convinced he's ever going to wrestle again.
Yeah.
But he at least
best,
seems
it's
to be
a super long recovery, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But in terms of thoughts on pay-per-view, I think this was an excellent pay-per-view.
Yeah, give me a rating out of 5 stars. Give me a rating out of 5 stars. A la Meltzer.
Realistically, I think I'd say 4 to 4.5. I think there's a couple of little moments that I think could be improved. As I said, the main event thing, I'm still not 100% sold on. But I think top to bottom, it was maybe one of the best straight-up wrestling pay-per-views out there.
Colin.
Possibly AEW. No, I can't even say. Maybe top to bottom, their best pay-per-view this year. There really wasn't a bad match. And even if like their lowest point match was still a great match, kind of thing, right? Now, I also nothing will probably ever get a perfect 5 stars, 7 stars, whatever the hell you want to call it, from me, because nothing has ever been as good as WrestleMania X7. So everything's going to get measured against that. I don't care what the promotion is. So, did we have special moments like Bryan Danielson and Swerve and Bryan Danielson and Mox and Wembley and all that kind of stuff? No. But yeah, 4.5. Like, there was nothing wrong really at all in this pay-per-view, like a top to bottom, and a fantastic way to end the year as well. So
I'm gonna give it. Sorry, Pete, go.
I was about to say, I think there has been 2 5-star AEW pay-per-views this year, and just this wasn't one of them for me. The 2 that stand out to me are still Revolution and All In. I think are 5-star pay-per-views this year, and this one I think's maybe on a similar level to an All Out or Forbidden Door or Dynasty, where it's still an excellent pay-per-view, but it's just that level below those other 2.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5 as well. Only because, again, kind of like Colin, I don't know if I can give it a perfect 5, but and again, I feel like we've been saying that for the last AEW pay-per-views, which is why I've been enjoying like tuning into these things, because I feel like we said that. I swear to God, we said that in the last pay-per-view, Colin, that great matches top to bottom, and the worst one was still pretty good.
Exactly.
Which is a testament to the in-ring talent themselves. Yep. But I think I'm going to give it a 4.5. Again, just fun all around. But that will do it, friends. Nearly 90 minutes of content, which is fantastic. What a way to close out the Ringside Heat content of in 2024. A couple of housekeeping notes before we go. In terms of AEW live streams, I am not sure when the next one is, because the first one, Wrestle Dynasty, on January 5th is in the middle of the night. So that's a big no-no for us. And then you have Grand Slam Australia, which probably is extremely early in the morning. So maybe we'll probably opt out of that, which means that our potential next AEW live stream is AEW Revolution, March 9th from Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, California, is when we may steer to next. So I think from there, which means that I think our next potential live stream would, I think I think we're gonna do it Monday Night Raw, January 6th, Monday, January 6th. The first Raw on Netflix, which then in terms of live streams will be followed up by the Royal Rumble, February 1st of 2025, as the road to WrestleMania 41 is nearly about to begin once again. That beautiful time.
And I'm watching WWE again.
God bless us all. Pete, for context, Pete, Colin was in a WWE hiatus since Logan Paul made his appearance in WWE, but now after I think a good 2 to 3 years, he's back.
They're on Netflix now, and I have Netflix anyway. It's hard to ignore. Plus, Royal Rumble is my favorite pay-per-view.
It's always a fun time.
It will be the first pay-per-view I'm watching again. It may be the last if they screw it up. So,
and for Pete and I, it is our fantasy our fantasy football direction. The Royal Rumble helps us direct our paths to our fantasy football draft and who gets to keep one of the players from the year before. So the Rumble is always a fun time for us. But Pete, once again, thank you so much. I know it's been we took up a lot of your time, but thank you so much for taking part of this AEW weekend. What a great way to close up the year. And again, we hope that you maybe come back another time for another AEW pay-per-view.
Who knows?
Well, I guess
I'll get rid of Jose. Don't worry.
Oh, good Lord. Well, for Peter Atkinson and for Colin Dodge, you can find him on social media at Risen72. I'm Jose Tabata at Tabata93. Thank you so much for tuning in all throughout 2024. Happy New Year. Ring in the New Year safely, and we will see you all in 2025. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.